How's it going, y'all? It has been Aqua, and I am vlogging with the iPhone 13 Pro. It's kind of walking around and testing out the front-facing and the rear-facing cameras because I upgraded finally from the 11 Pro to this 13 Pro. So I'm kind of testing out how these cameras are doing, and I do have some thoughts. As you can see, it is a bright, sunny, and relatively clear day here in Lubbock, Texas. There's a little bit of road noise here and a little bit of wind, so we'll see how the microphones do with wind and all that fun stuff. So yeah, let's just go around and shoot some fun stuff with these cameras. Stabilization uses the sensor shift technology that was introduced, I think, on the 12 Pro, the 12 Pro Max, or maybe just the 12 Pro Max actually from last year. So what do y'all think of the stabilization? Let me know in the comments. And it is mad sunny out here, so I am all squints. But hopefully the stabilization is pretty decent, and hopefully the camera just looks good in this like intensely bright light. Just looking at the preview screen, it looks good, but it looks just like the 11 Pro. I think a lot of iPhones just do really well in light like this. This is with the telephoto lens. I'm seeing a little bit of lens flaring on the left. You can see that kind of greenish little blob coming through where the sun's coming through. But the detail looks really good. 3x zoom. This looks like it was shot on a DSLR or something. Just keep zooming in. Damn, look at all these little details. So we get macro mode plus some pretty good looking bokeh in the background. Look at that. That is very, very impressive. So now I'm trying to keep it a little more steady. See how the stabilization does here. Using the ultra wide camera to accentuate all the lines, the shadows, the perspective. How is this doing in terms of emphasizing, everything around me? What does the mic quality sound like? Those are some of the things that I'm looking for in these tests. And I'm just shooting handheld. I'm not using a gimbal, nothing fancy really. And the footage you're seeing right now and throughout this entire video is all ungraded, by the way. If I hold it out at arm's length, I probably look really tiny in the frame. It's probably a little too far out. So usually with the ultra wide, something like this might look a little better. I can't see what I'm doing, but hopefully it looks good. But let's switch over to the wide lens and see if that looks pretty good too, because I think there might be a little bokeh in the background. All right, so now my arm is outstretched all the way, and I'm using the wide angle lens on the rear of the iPhone 13 Pro. And I think I should be getting a little bokeh in the background. It probably looks a little bit better than using the front-facing camera because the aperture is much wider on this rear-facing camera, the wide lens on the iPhone 13 Pro. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. So I'm actually using the ultra wide angle lens right now, and you can just keep moving in closer and closer, even in video mode, and you can get insanely close to all kinds of stuff and start seeing like cell division and stuff almost. I mean, check this out. The lens is seriously like right on top of this little leaf thing, which is really insane to me. And then when you zoom out, it just kind of naturally goes back into the ultra wide mode. That is super, super cool. One thing I have noticed, just thinking about this phone in general versus the 11 Pro, is the 13 Pro definitely feels noticeably heavier and a little bit bigger too, actually. If you're used to the size and weight of the 11 Pro, it is a little bit of a jump, and I'm not super down with it honestly right now, but maybe I'll just get used to it. But if you do like a smaller phone, I'm actually like super curious about the 13 mini now. But I will say this though, the colors on the camera of the 13 Pro look absolutely amazing. You know, I am obviously in like pure daylight, so everything looks nice and crisp, everything looks really clear, and HDR is like doing its thing for sure. During the day like this, a lot of phones, even older phones like the 11 Pro or even before that, probably will look pretty good overall, just like with all the cameras and stuff that it has around it. But on the 13 Pro, I am noticing that the footage looks a little more stable than the previous phones. The 11 Pro has a telephoto lens as well, but the zoom is only 2 times. And the 13 Pro has a 3 times zoom, and it is noticeably zoomier than the 11 Pro. So if you use your telephoto lens a lot, if you like to zoom into things without having to use, you know, like a digital zoom, and you want to use the optical zoom, then you might want to think about getting the 13 Pro instead of the 13 mini or the 13, because the 13 Pro does have that extra telephoto lens. I actually really like using the telephoto lens. It seems like a lot of people don't really like the telephoto lens, but I love zooming into things. It actually looks really good on the 13 Pro. So if you're out there and you're wondering, can you use the 13 Pro for vlogging? Of course you can. You can even use it for street photography or for just anything, because this camera is seriously versatile. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. I love the ultra wide lens. I love the wide lens, and the microphones are pretty good. It is a little bit windy right now, but HDR really makes a huge difference, especially in these kinds of scenes where there's some really bright areas back here and I'm kind of in the shadows. You can still see everything very well. Like, it looks really good. So another thing I wanted to mention is battery life, which is actually really fantastic on the 13 Pro. Just to really push it to its limit, I didn't really charge the phone before I left to shoot this vlog, and I've been using it for about a day and a half now. I've only charged it once so far, and I just looked and it's down to about 13%, I think. And when I left my car to start filming this vlog, I had about 26%. So it went about 13% down, shooting in 4K for about an hour at full brightness, with the screen at full brightness. And, you know, 13% for shooting for an hour in 4K. That's pretty amazing, and the battery life is pretty impressive so far. All right, so one question I've been asking myself is, if you have an older phone, especially something older than the 12 Pro or 12, like I said, I'm coming from the 11 Pro. So if you have an older phone, should you upgrade to the 13 Pro as a better vlogging camera? My quick answer to that is, if you have the money, I think you should definitely upgrade. The camera upgrades on this phone are amazing. HDR totally comes through. I think the microphones sound pretty good. There is a little bit of wind noise, as you have been hearing throughout this video, but it's not the worst microphone ever. And I also like that the microphone on these phones is so good that you don't really need to attach anything to it unless you wanted no wind noise. But I love it. This is just like a phone you can just whip out and just start recording, start taking some amazing photos, and you don't really have to think about it too much. It's kind of like the ultimate point and shoot camera, because it's always on you and it takes amazing quality videos and photos. It's almost hard to take a bad looking video or photo. Like, you have to actually kind of try to do it, unless you're in low light, in which a lot of photos and videos just look kind of trash from iPhones still, even the iPhone 13 Pro. But if you're out and about just filming, you know, vlogging with your phone, and you already have the 11 Pro, and, you know, if you're in like super bright sunlight and you're not in a low light situation, I honestly can't see a huge difference just looking at this footage versus looking at footage from my 11 Pro. But where I do notice some difference between the 13 Pro and the 11 Pro is the 13 Pro definitely has better image stabilization. Footage does look more stable. It does look even more HDR-y. Like, there's more detail in the shadows and in the highlights. It almost looks a little too over sharpened and a little too HDR for my taste. But for vlogging and stuff like that, you know, to me, it just has to look really good. And this camera definitely produces really good looking videos and photos. There's no doubt about that. Another thing to consider with vlogging with your phone is the screen brightness, and that is one area where I think the 13 Pro is definitely an improvement over the 11 Pro. Like, I can see the preview screen a lot better in bright sunlight right now, and the Texas sun does not mess around. It is one of the brightest things ever. I'm constantly blinded by it and squinting in half my videos. But the screen is actually really easy to see, and I am sitting in a kind of shady area right now, but even in bright sunlight, I can actually see what's going on the screen, and I can see, like, you know, if things are in focus and that kind of thing. So there is a little bit of an improvement. Is it worth, you know, spending another $1,000 plus on a new phone if you have an older phone? If you have something before maybe like the 11 Pro, I think the screen is going to be a lot brighter. But even, you know, right next to my 11 Pro, the screen brightness is actually very similar. The 11 Pro still holds up super well, I must say. I've been very impressed, and just using the 13 Pro actually made me appreciate how good the 11 Pro is after 2 years. Like, I could still use the 11 Pro as my main vlogging camera easily. But the 13 Pro has the latest and greatest, so it is fun to use a new device. But do you need the 13 Pro to vlog? I don't think so. You could totally get by with the 11 Pro. You could definitely get by with the 12 Pro or a 12 mini, etc. So let me know what you think in the comments below if you have any questions about the 13 Pro. I really like this phone so far. I'm having a lot of fun with it. Be sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're not already. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.